Omicron. Falcon hates puns and thinks that they're all wrong. One's American and one is an Aussie. Talking about StarCraft 2 and the esports scene.
Excellent. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good to have you, for sure.
We've only been trying to have you on the show for literally over a year. I was looking at the first time I asked. It was June 17th last year.
Sorry about that. That's my bad.
That's quite all right.
I've just been very. I'm one of those people where when I get messaged on Discord or Twitter and that sort of thing, even outside of esports, I just do a lot of stuff where I'll get to that later, and then just things will happen. I'll get busy and I'll just sort of let it go. I'm sorry.
No, we understand. I mean, it took us a long time to get Pig on when he was here. Zombie Grub, there was some time there too, so we get it. The people we want on the podcast have busy lives, and so we don't expect people to be like, "Yes, I'll do it now. Thank you for the offer." So we totally understand. You got stuff going on. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, we got there.
Yeah.
It's fine. I was just saying to Cybercon, like, as long as I can still do my stream later, I'm happy to jump on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are we talking about today?
Well, speaking of just randomly thinking about on Twitter, I actually saw this here poll from ESPN Esports that I thought was interesting. I'm going to share it into our shared chat here. It says only one esports moment can win at the ESPYs. Will it be number 7, Cyril winning WCS Global Finals at BlizzCon, or number 10, Chiquite 126 becoming the first woman drafted into the NBA 2K League?
Okay.
So I had some thoughts on this.
Looks like Cyril's losing. I just checked.
Yes, indeed. Currently it stands at 55% for Chiquita and 45% for Cyril.
I don't think the Twitter poll is the poll. It does say you have to go
they
to
have
the
a poll
website
on the
to
tweet,
vote.
okay.
So
Yeah. He's losing the poll,
Are
but
they
I don't
gonna
know if he's
show us
losing the competition.
If it's
No,
I
that's
just
it.
clicked on it, and
Yeah.
I tell
Voting
you
will
what,
take place on the ESPN Esports Twitter. I think that's it. I really think that's legit.
Oh, okay.
That's it right there.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, because I just clicked on the link and I didn't find any way to vote. I just scrolled through it really quickly and I didn't see anything there.
I found something. You can vote there. That's what it's telling me.
SB's voting best esport moment.
Oh, you can.
Oh.
So I've got all the different
shit.
brackets here. So is this the final two then? Is this Cyril versus Chiquita?
I don't know. I think they're doing brackets. So I don't know if this is the finals.
I don't even see that one
don't know.
on the list here. I don't see the Cyril one on this page that you linked.
I see it.
Which
Yeah, it's second.
it's
from
all the
bottom.
way down here. Okay.
Yeah.
So 7 versus 10 there, and then
Thanks for
is there
voting.
a whole bracket we can see? I guess we can figure
I
it
think
out.
so.
But anyway, the main thought here was that obviously I'm biased for StarCraft stuff, and I don't really care
Obviously.
about NBA 2K. Even though I do like the NBA, I just don't like watching the esport version of it. So, it is bottom line. I kind of feel like if we're looking at an esports moment, I kind of feel like the first foreigner to win a BlizzCon event is a much bigger
man.
deal than
Look,
than a woman got drafted in the NBA 2K League. I think it's great that happened, but as far as relative importance in the general esports scene, I'm gonna go with Cyril on that.
is NBA 2K esports?
Yeah.
Or is that what we're okay? I mean, it's all subjective in my opinion. I guess that's why they have a poll there, because that moment is more important to a lot of other people out there than it is to others, right? So
Yes.
these polls are really quite silly to me in general. There's always been, esports awards shows and that sort of thing where some people in the industry take it really, really seriously, and they get upset at other people for not taking it seriously because it's our path to quote-unquote being legitimate, which I think's a crock of shit. Pardon French.
No, you're good. We'll be fine.
You can swear. You can swear. We don't mind.
Oh, fantastic. I should have asked. But I think that, For starters, this is a little bit. It's not. It doesn't mean anything. We know, what Serral winning means to us is what it means, and ESPN can't take it away from us. Even if whether they win or lose, doesn't bother me at all.
Polls will change literally nothing.
Exactly.
About Serral's accomplishment if he loses.
Exactly, and I mean, 2019 could be a back-to-back thing for him. Who knows?
Oh God, wouldn't that be amazing?
It would be, and it's. It's not that long till, say, we got the Asus ROG coming up with new event, and we got GSL versus the World, where we'll get to see Serral versus the Koreans for the first time this year, and that'll be an exciting moment to see how he's looking going towards the global finals.
Agreed. Yeah, Somicron would just be over the moon if a Zerg won the global or BlizzCon again. He would just be so happy about that.
Right. I mean, he can be whatever he can be whatever race he wants. It's amazing that it's this kid from the woods in Finland,
yeah,
and not a Korean from a friggin' house.
Agreed. That's the insane part about it. And I have heard some rumbles that Serral didn't actually beat any Terrans at the global finals. He beat a lot of Protoss and a couple Zerg, but there was no innovation, and he didn't ever have to face Maru.
That is true. I think. Yeah. But he did at the GSL versus the World beat Innovation, and also Mario in a best of one though. So you can't really put a whole lot of stock in that.
Yeah, it's much harder to determine.
And then he beat Innovation shortly after BlizzCon in a best of 7 grand final and home story cup. So his TVZ is okay. Although it does seem like right now, like at this moment, Serral's TVZ is probably still. He mentioned it last year that it's his weakest matchup. I would say that it's still his weakest matchup just by seeing some of his WCS Challenger games. He looked a little vulnerable.
Yeah, agreed. Which is so weird because a lot of the complaints about balance today are about Protoss being stronger than Zerg, but Serral doesn't seem to care about that. So, I mean, if your top players on a race aren't bothered by a certain matchup, then I'm not sure how much Blizz is going to balance it.
He did an article on Team Liquid where he was sort of saying that ZVP is tricky, I think was what he said. Not that, he's not one to balance wine. He's a very humble guy. He's a benevolent god. But he doesn't like... just by watching, being a fan of him and watching a lot of his games, it does seem like he struggles against some of those, some styles of Terran. But I don't remember the last time I saw him struggle against a Protoss. I've seen him lose ZVZs.
Yep.
But ZVP just seems like, it seems like he's, if not his best matchup, then certainly on par with his ZVZ. Because some of the people that he's been playing in ZVZ have been absolutely incredible. So, and his series against Lambo recently was actually really impressive for me to see how good Lambo is right now. So.
I was impressed by that too, for sure. Lambo, he's been around for a while, but I've never watched his games and thought, wow, this guy, he is quickly ascending to the top. But yeah, he showed very well.
He has moments of brilliance. And a lot of people in the scene know that he's great. It's just that when it comes to those big lands, he's like not been able to make a big enough splash for the community to get on board. Yep. Like a lot of us commentators know that Lambo's really good, and we know that he has the ability to beat the best players in the world. That there's no one in the world that he couldn't take a map off. But there's but you got to convince the community of that by placing high. I think his highest is WCS Austin. I think last year might have been where it happened, but spring wasn't too bad either for him. So hopefully with summer coming up, he can have another shot at it. Hopefully he sticks around for a really long time to show us how good he is.
Yeah, for sure. Like the guy a lot. Yeah. German player, really solid mechanically, as they generally seem to be from that country for whatever reason. He took third place at Home Story last year. So, yeah, yep. He got 3-0'd by Innovation, which again, no shame in that. Innovation is abjectly terrifying. But yeah, third place. Yeah, Home Story is quite a feather in your cap for sure.
It certainly is, and considering he got eliminated by the guy that nearly killed Serral in the grand final in a best of 7, it's not really anything to be upset about, I don't think. I mean, all pro gamers, anyone that is competitive is always going to be upset when they lose to some degree. But
you can have some perspective on it.
Certainly softens the blow. Yeah.
So the thing with Serral is, in the games that I've watched of his, a couple of games that I've cast too, it seems like a couple things that he has struggled with in ZVT is One, I think I saw Hero Marine take him down with just a kind of a surprise battle cruiser tech switch about mid-game. He managed to hide it from Cyril. He didn't scout it. He wasn't able to get in there, and then suddenly battle cruiser and Cyril wasn't ready for it and just went down.
It's my style, man. I love playing
surprise
the
battle
BC
cruiser.
stuff on ladder. Yeah, I love it. But it's one of those styles that's very reliant on your first battle cruiser being effective. If it doesn't do a whole lot, then you're pretty far behind.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a gamble. I mean, a lot of stuff in StarCraft is, but Cyril's like it seems like there's a few styles in TVZ that he struggles against. He's like the king of multitasking. Like he has a huge score in every single aspect of the game. It'd be 10 out of 10 map vision, 10 out of 10 mechanics, 10 out of 10 multitask, all that sort of stuff. But sometimes, some armies for the Terran, I think like one of the most impressive things to me about really good players in StarCraft is like looking at a battle and knowing that you've won it before you fight.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Like this sort of like you have to make that split-second snap decision when you see the army of the Terran and you see that siege position. You're like, okay, you calculate quickly. 3 siege tanks. I have high ground. This many Marines. I have this. Does this beat that? And you need to make that decision within milliseconds.
Right. Because if you go in there and get wiped out, you're done. You need to be able to pull
exactly.
back.
Like you overextend and you're done.
Exactly.
So, and seems like sometimes Cyril's calculations sometimes are off for TVZ because maybe some of these styles he hasn't played against tens of thousands of times yet, like that the battle mech stuff, which I'm sure he's getting a lot. He completely demolished Special playing that style at WCS Spring Grand Final.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's certainly when he's sort of gotten used to a style, he can really make it look silly. But maybe the BC stuff he's still not completely used to, although it did kind of plague the ladder for a while before the BC, like Yamato kind of got nerfed a bit. But it is like it does seem like sometimes Cyril miscalculates battles. It's kind of hard to explain. I'm not a huge analyst, and I haven't seen every single one of his games, but I've definitely watched a lot, and that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be perfect at it. I think if you're in the 90% of the time, you know what's going on accurately and can predict if you can beat this army. I think that's plenty good enough. Another style that I've seen Cyril struggle against, I saw Innovation do the whole mass nuke play against him one time, and Innovation won that game. And I just feel like it's really hard for Zergs to deal with 4 nukes at the same time on 4 of your bases while accounting for an army pushing against your creep.
Yeah, that was I Am Katowice.
Yeah.
And unfortunately wasn't on the mainstream because it was one of those things that that was off stream. And that was actually the first series Cyril lost in like 6 months or something.
Yes.
Like it was he offline he was like 60 something or 70 something
which is insane.
which is ridiculous. I'm probably way off with that. I don't remember the numbers this early morning here. But all I know is that he was undefeated offline for a very, very long time. There was that 3-0. He dropped a knee at one point in 2018, which kind of like was a bit of a stain on his record. But it was online and no one really put any stock into it. But that was his first offline loss as far as series goes is to Innovation. So that style, I think, honestly, in my opinion, like I'm not a high level player, just a guy that's a fan of the game and watches a lot of StarCraft. But in my opinion, everyone keeps talking to me about how strong Zerg late game is with Infestors, Broodlords, and stuff. But if you're one of those Terrans, this is a big if, by the way. If you're one of those Terrans that has the mechanics to remember to shift queue out those ghosts and blanket, carpet bomb that map with WEMDs, I think that that actually seems way more powerful to me. I think you're not going to get a whole lot done against Protoss doing that style because they have the ability to detect things a little bit easier. They have the ability to warp in defenses instantly, or pretty instantly, that sort of thing. Tempests also make that style a little bit tough because you can tag the ghost and then target fire it down. With Zerg though, it feels like they struggle against that sort of big nuke pressure style when it gets to the super late game when Terran's got a bank and they're just making a lot of nukes and they're making a lot of ghosts. It seems so obnoxious to stop. I watch these Zergs and I'm like, God, I feel for you. Like I'm watching Reyna get nuked to high heaven from like oh God, who was it? it was Marine Lord. Like Marine Lord was nuking him to death on King's Cove. I mean, King's Cove's a pretty good map for TVZ. But you know, it's not the first time I've seen that. You know, there was a famous Seoul Denver game that I cast on the SET Highlights channel, which was just like 90 something nukes, and Denver was just slowly dying a slow death because he was bleeding out resources, and even creep. You know, your creep gets receded pretty far by the nukes, and it's not like the nukes are landing big juicy wallops on the army and there's a big moment. They're just killing drones. They're just killing static defense. They're killing spore crawlers. They're just pushing you back slowly. And the Zerg army, when it's, you know, if it's not together and it doesn't have 1,000 infestors under it, it's not you know, not that impressive. And also the added benefit of the fact that the ghost can EMP those infestors sometimes, so you really got to be on your toes. So the ghost seems so strong in late game, but that's just me as a spectator, you know, as a fan of the game watching. I certainly can't play that style very well, so I struggle in late game against Zerg.
Yeah, it's nuts. And then Maru versus Scarlet too, third place match from
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's
That was also King's Cove, by the
yes.
way.
Yeah, for some reason,
small.
very nuki map.
I remember that game.
Yeah.
It lasted
Yeah,
forever.
this is,
Yeah, it was
80 minutes.
one of those-
crazy.
That's right. It's one of those games that lives on an infamy of the is that the rules moment with WESG, and also the the entire community. Oh God, and the community, bless their souls, they love doing this. They're arguing on behalf of someone else,
Right.
without knowing that person's thought process or without knowing what that person was thinking at the time. But they say stuff like, "This is obvious." You know. I'm going to go on a tangent here in a second, but yeah, they were saying stuff like, "Oh, Maru knew, and this is WSG rules, and there's no way the best terror in the world would forget to lift his structures and float it to the corner." Turns out in the end, yes, it is. That is exactly what happened. In Maru got an interview with Crank.
That's exactly what he said.
Like Crank, it's exactly what he said to Crank. He was like, "No, I just forgot. I was concentrating on getting the Broodlords killed with my Vikings. That was what I was doing. I forgot I could lift my structures, and it could have been a draw." And he forgot. He made a mistake. But the community was 100% convinced best terror in the world could never, ever make that mistake. It's ridiculous. Get out of here. I even got tweeted at saying that I'm stupid for thinking that, for thinking that Maru would forget to lift the structure. And then, another thing the other day. I see it all the time, though, guys. Like, oh, my God. As a commentator, you get all these feedback threads and that sort of thing. I see it all the time. I saw that... my good friend Zombie Grub got a love thread on Reddit, and I was like, oh, great, because I think she's fantastic, and I don't think she gets anywhere near the amount of attention that she deserves, because she's, I guess not everyone's cup of tea as far as commentator goes, but I think she's brilliant. And I saw the thread, and I'm like, oh, this is fantastic, and I was reading some responses, and I saw some dude in there doing the thing where he was just like, you know what, I saw Zombie Grub get snarky with Fear Dragon. It was really obvious and clear that she wasn't having a bar of it. Like, she just could not handle his bullshit or something like that. And it's a shame that Fear Dragon ruined that cast, or Zombie Grub reacted that way. And I'm like, is this daytime soap opera or reality TV that is that what you watch when you don't watch StarCraft? Like, where do you get this information from? Did Fear Dragon call you and vent to you one night in tears over the phone? Like, I happen to know for a fact that I speak to both of them every day. We're in a Discord group together where we're quite close, and we talk to each other almost every day, or actually I would say even every day. But they're like best friends. If she's being snarky, it's because she's just having a crack at him. It's just banter. But the community, like some people, not everyone, I'm sorry, when I say the community, I don't mean like the community at large, I just mean the people that do this thing on Reddit and do this thing online. Like, if you're listening to the Falcopolitan podcast and you're one of those people, go look in the mirror, think about what you do with your time, and think about how you parse things when you watch them online. Oh, Jesus Christ! I can't believe that this is something that people do. Like, maybe it's because I'm a little bit older, or like maybe I just never got to that part of online personality. I don't know, because I like to treat a lot of my online interactions like how I treat people in person. You know what I mean? So for the Falcon Paladin people, that means ignoring them. No. That's
Wow.
What I mean by that is, like, I try to give people benefit of the doubt. I try and respect what they say. I try and see where they're coming from and try and be empathetic, and then try and, if they're disagreeing with me, try and see where they're coming from, I don't just say, no, lol, you're literally Hitler, XD, like that sort of thing. I don't really do that. Seems like more of a a young boys game. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you see this thing? Do you guys see this thing on Reddit? Like, I'm sorry for going on a rant tangent here, but do you see this thing on like Reddit and forums and that sort of thing where people just make up something? You know, they're like, oh, Mike Morhaime left Blizzard because of blah 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 blah. Activision's making this decision. I'm like, oh wow, there's some people. I didn't realize that XX Sephiroth 69XX was best friends with Mike Morhaime, was also a Fortune 500 CEO, where he could make all these fantastic business decisions. I had no idea. Like, wow, what company did you own? Like, who were you the president and founder and co-founder of before you could tell Activision what the fuck to do with their money and why they should make these decisions?
Yeah, I think it's just there's a general like a human need to understand the whys of certain things, and if no why is provided, then the brain goes, well, let's
do it
figure this
silently.
out. Yeah, exactly. And there's no reason not to think about that stuff. And I think maybe even presenting it in a way where you're just like, this is just my opinion. This is what I'm guessing happened. Is that something that offends you?
Oh God. Yeah, just it's something I always say on my stream to people that are in my Twitch chat, and this is a branch off of what I was talking about before. You know, my rant tree. This is a branch off of it. But I'm just like, a lot of the time, people will be like, "This band sucks, dude. This music's shit," or "This band's the best in the world." You know, other end of the spectrum. Both of those, I think, are stuff that I actually don't like saying. Those are, like, I always say that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah.
You know, and you should say, like, if you just add, in my opinion, it kind of takes a lot of the battle out of it for me. Like, I actually just sort of go, oh, fine. Like, you can say in your opinion that Protoss is the weakest race in the world. You know, you could say in your opinion that country music's the best in the world. These are two things that I heavily disagree with. But I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, you know, no, that's not true, and say you're wrong and you're stupid and all the stuff that people normally say to others, like LeMayo, you know, wake up, smell the coffee, whatever. I'm never ever going. Oh God, I could do with coffee right now. But I'm never ever going to, you know, I treat people like that, like I would in person. Like if someone comes up to me and they're like, "Hey man, nice to meet you. Also, the Earth is flat and Obama's a lizard person," I'll be like, "Huh? I mean, huh?" You know, I'll be like, "All right, you know, that's your opinion, but you know, I'm pretty sure that's not true. But, you know, where'd you get the information for that from?" And then if they say Alex Jones, then we're done. You know, like it's at least we went there. You know, I didn't laugh at them. I didn't shut them down. Although in my brain I might have. You know, everyone has biases in their brain to some extent. To some extent of it, you gotta at least treat your fellow human with a little bit more respect. You know, that's where I'm getting at.
Yeah. You give them at least one chance.
I give them a shot. Yeah, dude.
To explain themselves.
Tell me how Obama's a lizard person. Tell me how vaccinations cause autism. By all means, do it.
Oh man, you don't want to go
Tell me
down,
how the Earth's
you don't
flat.
want to go down that rabbit hole. People have long
No, I
rants
don't.
about this
I
stuff.
don't. No, I absolutely don't.
Okay.
And if either of you two guys have a different opinion than myself, that's completely fine. That's where I'm getting at here. Like we're all human beings interacting, but it's just when I see that shit online, like a derivative of that online, it actually like it makes me laugh, but it's like laugh anger, like, you know, when 20 charge lots appear in your main base and you're just like like that kind of laugh.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like GG,
Yeah.
like that kind of thing. But yeah. Anyway. sorry for the derail.
For the record, both of us believe the Earth is.
We started off on a different topic here.
Yeah. No, it's fine. That's how the podcast usually goes. But for the record, both of us are very pro the world is round and that vaccinations are good. So,
well, I mean, as an Australian, I have to be, because the whole argument for flat earthers is that Australia doesn't exist and we're all paid actors.
it is hard for an Australian to be a flat earth.
because Australia Australia and a lot of our southern hemispherian brothers and sisters disprove their theory, because you can Skype call one of us and it'll be sunshine where it's dark. when they start to call.
See, but it's just a conspiracy. You know, just everybody's
it's
in
a
on
set,
it.
man. Yeah, we're in
you're in on it.
We're in a Hollywood set.
Yep.
That's right.
It's nice.
I'm actually I joke sometimes when people come to our chat, they're like, "Oh, Australia's fake," you know, and they'll do that as like a Kappa thing in my chat. I was like, "Yeah, I'm actually a white girl from Utah, an albino white girl from Utah with a really good voice modulator and a very good convincing accent. Also, you know, face makeup, hair, wig, beard.
It's plausible, man. I've seen what they do
Speaking
with
of-
Snapchat these days. Totally doable.
Oh, dude, there's all kinds of filters out there, man. It's just amazing that I can put that filter on in person for people. Like when people come and meet me in person, it's still there.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Technology is
It's really
great.
technology is actually it's so good. So it's actually as a small side note regarding the hair and the beard, tasteless. I remember we were having a drink one night. It was just years ago, and he still brings it up every now and then. Is just that he always he would just sit there silently. He'll just look at me and he'll be like, "Man, I always just start laughing when I look at you, and I just imagine you going to your hotel, you're going to a hotel room and like taking off your beard and taking off your hair, and you're actually just a bald guy. It's just, you're actually like a cherub baby." And it makes me laugh.
Man, if you ever
That guy.
did shave your head and your beard, I think a lot of people will just like have heart attacks and die. I think they might just be done at that point. So be careful. Be careful with that. Is what I'm saying.
There's been a few times where I've I'm putting on a hoodie or something that doesn't have a zipper, or even one with a zipper and a dread gets caught on it or something like that. I'm like, oh, fuck this hair. I want to cut it off. And then it happens sometimes, especially in summer when it's really hot. You know, my hair is not good for hot weather.
No.
And I just be like, I just want to cut it all off, you know, just shave my head, because it felt so nice to have a shaved head. When I even remember, even though it was like, you know, that was the last haircut I had. I used to just have a pair of like barber's clippers, and I would just shave my head in the sink. Is how I would, you know, don't do this, by the way, kids. Like, you'll clog a drain. But
Yeah.
When I lived out of home, I was dumb, you know. So I let my hair grow out to, you know, maybe like 2 or 3 inches length, and then I'll just cut it all off with clippers. You know, just buzz it all down to like a number 2, like a crew cut, and I just have a shaved head. And that was my haircut. Instead of spending money on a haircut, I had a $50 pair of clippers, and I'd just do that every few months.
Saves time, saves
Or
money.
however
I'm
long.
down. That sounds great.
Exactly. And I was all about saving time and money when I moved out of house, my dude, because I had 3 jobs, and I was a full-time student, and I wasn't living at home, and I was eating crackers and dip. Crackers and dip if I was feeling fancy.
What kind of dip?
Well, the cheapest and most filling dip was actually hummus.
Oh yeah, okay.
So that I would go down the hummus path. But if I really wanted to treat myself to a Friday night, you know, put on some candles, mood lighting, that sort of thing, and just really have a me night, then I'd get some French onion dip. You know what I mean? Like this is that top shelf. It's an extra 70 cents. You know, like put my feet up, put on the bathrobe, put on some Careless Whisper, and just start dipping into that French onion.
Maybe some name brand.
Take the phone off the hook
instead of.
Yeah, dude, some of that.
Store brand.
Some Captain's Table water crackers that are literally $1 for a box of 50. You know, like
Such good value.
that's how I ate, man. That's how I ate when I moved out of home.
So yeah, haircuts low
but
on
yeah,
the list of priorities then.
Yeah. Well, every time I think about cutting it, to go back to what we were saying before, I always just say, do I want the community backlash?
Right?
If you ever do decide to shave and cut your hair, you got to keep it and turn it into a wig, so that way when you're at like a GSL Super
Right.
tournament or something, or versus the world, you can just whip it off, right? And really surprise Tasteless.
There are
That would
different.
be fantastic.
There are times where I'm like, I just want to cut it all off and then just wear it as a wig. But
Yeah.
it would look so different. Like, wigs look so different to what, because I actually have like, you know, I have a lot of hair, obviously, but there are parts of my head that where my hair is relatively thin compared to the others. So wearing a wig is full coverage, and it actually would I would look very different with a wig on than what my hair looks right now. So yeah.
So that's how we'll
like,
know. If we ever see you, your head looks
that's
weird.
how-
We'll know it's a wig.
The top of my head will have more dreads on it.
Excellent.
There'll be a bit of like a mound on top of my head, and that's how you'll know. That's how you'll know it's a wig and not my real hair.
All right. Make note of that, Samacron. Just in case.
Yeah,
All right,
I think I've
good.
got it.
Yeah. It's also extremely hard to do with dreads, because with dreads you you tighten to the root, so like my scalp can be seen pretty much everywhere on my head at the moment, because you have like you know, wound up hair.
I don't know how on earth we got to that, but we're there now.
Yeah, here we are.
We are.
What's up, guys?
One thing I did want to ask you, though, while we got you, Maynard, is I actually don't know your origin of the history with StarCraft. Like, when did you get into it? What was
Really?
your first impression of it? How did that all go down?
My first impressions of StarCraft 2 was actually one of the few times I can remember. Like, I've learned to not be hyped for games over time, which is a shame. You know, I when I was growing up, anytime I was hyped for a game and it came out, it was the best video game ever. But now, maybe because I'm getting older, or maybe I just have less patience, there's a lot of games where I'm like, oh, that'd be cool, and then it comes out and I play it, and I'm like, oh, this game's terrible. And then I'll just uninstall it and get a refund. Turns out, yeah. But StarCraft 2 was definitely one of the last times I remember being really excited for a game, and when it came out, it was everything I wanted.
Yeah.
So I remember that very vividly. Like, I remember I was showing my girlfriend at the time, I was like, anytime there was a new cinematic trailer or a gameplay trailer, I would sit her down in my lounge room and show her this video and show her how excited I am for this game. Because she was a gamer as well, so it's not like she's some she's not some supermodel or some normie girl where I'm just like, I'm going to force this gaming content upon you. Like, I'm not like that kind of thing. She was actually a gamer and she was actually interested in it. So every time I'd find it, I'm like really excited. I'd sit her down and I'd be like, look at this trailer, and it would give me chills. All the stuff from Wings of Liberty, that trailer, the Hell It's About Time, the cutscene stuff would give me chills, and I was so excited because it was mainly, honestly, the campaign that I was excited about and playing multiplayer with my friends. Yep. Because when Brood War was around, I kept up with some of the esports stuff, but honestly, mainly my good times with Brood War, personally, were from playing the campaign and playing customs with my friends with cheats on.
Yes.
And BGH. Like most people, UMS maps. But StarCraft 2, I went balls deep, man, when that game came out. I wanted to absorb every single bit of content StarCraft 2 had to show me, whether it be, it was the first time where I sort of went, oh, I wonder what StarCraft 2 esports is like, because I actually ignored Warcraft 3 esports completely.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I didn't even get far enough to play much of it on ladder. Like, I played a few ladder games. I was like, I liked making maps, and I liked playing campaign, and that was it. And then StarCraft 2, I think the first tournament I ever saw in StarCraft 2, which I think was honestly the first tournament, was an IEM in oh god, I think it was Cologne, but it was even before GSL. Idra beat Morrow. Morrow beat Idra with 6 Rax Reaper in it. But
Wings of Liberty.
But I remember watching that tournament and going, damn, dude, the esports in this game is incredible. I want to be a part of this community. I want to talk about esports with people. I want to talk to people about this stuff. I want to watch it. I want to play in it. I'm practicing and that sort of thing. So I joined SC2C. It's an Australian or Southeast Asian based. It was run by a Singaporean dude, and it was sort of that region. We had a C server back then. We don't anymore. But we had that region, and that was a site for that region, and I became a part of it. I noticed that there were LANs in my hometown, and they were being organized on that site. I'm like, fuck yeah! So I showed up to that, and there were like tons of people there too, and I was just really excited about the excitement for StarCraft just worldwide, and then one fateful night, I became I jumped into a BSG clan league, because there was a lot of those on SC2C, and I was like a gold level Zerg at the time. And I'm like, yeah, I want to be a part of a team. I want to practice with a team and put in, and in my opinion, by the way, if you're a player out there and you're a little bit demotivated, go join a clan. Nothing's more motivating than being part of a team league, like Turbo Team League and that sort of thing, which is on Peak's channel, the grand finals at least.
Yeah, because you can't let your clanmates down. Got to win for them.
No, that's exactly right. You're just like, oh, I want to put in for this team. I want to do my part. And when it's my turn, I don't want to fail them. Anyway, that's what I thought. Maybe some people don't give a shit, but I didn't want to fail my team. So I lost my match, and I'm like, oh, I'm really bummed out. So I started having a whiskey, and I was a smoker at the time. So I was having a cigarette and a whiskey at my computer table, and the guy that was streaming, it was just like 6 people, was like, oh, I need a co-caster. My other co-caster's left, and we still have a few hours left of these games. Whoever adds me on a Skype gets to co-cast. So I did.
Nice.
And because I was like I was tipsy. I was like, whatever. I've never tried casting before. I'll do it. So I jumped on board. Jumped on board and started casting with him, and then and then a certain guy in the S2C community saw that cast for somehow, some way, and was like, "Oh, this guy's got a really nice voice, and he's fun, and he doesn't sound like a bogan. You know, he doesn't sound like your typical Australian commentator. He's actually quite nicely enunciated.
What was the word
Nice
you
voice,
used?
that sort of thing. Bogan.
Bogan?
Bogan.
I've never heard that word.
Bogan. Yeah. You never heard of that
No.
word? It basically, it's a Australian redneck.
Oh. An uncouth.
Like, g'day, mate. How you going? You know,
Uncouth or
that's
unsophisticated person.
an unsophisticated Australian of some. You know, it's not an ethnicity thing. It's everyone sounds like that, no matter what color they are, if they're a bogan. But so the guy grabbed me for his cup, and he did 2 of them, and they were the ones that had some internationals in there. You know, like it was the first time I was ever in a lobby with In Control. I'm like, oh my god, it's In Control. I'm a big fan. Oh my god, you know, because he was a really big deal back in the day. Still is, but you know,
Yeah, still is.
you know, EG was huge at the time, and I was just like, oh wow, holy crap! And there's like, you know, like some Slayers players were in there and that sort of thing. I'm like, oh my god, wow, all these pro players, and I'm just like telling them in lobbies, I'm like, I'm a huge fan, by the way, good luck. And I started casting with him, and then that guy got hired by ACL, which is the Australian Cyber League, to sort of admin their tournaments. And he's like, well, I have a caster for you. And so I started doing local Australian events. The ACL StarCraft events was like the biggest LAN in StarCraft 2, this LAN circuit for StarCraft 2 for like 2 or 3 years. And then in 2012, ACL got hired by Blizzard, as Blizzard opened a Sydney office. And one of the first things they did was they and I think because of StarCraft 2's success, they could afford to open a Sydney office. Like there was like, you know, StarCraft 2 started so many things, and you know, including Twitch, by the way. But the Blizzard community sort of appeared in in Sydney, and they hired ACL to run WCS 2012 in Australia, like the Oceanic and the Australian WCS Grand Finals in Sydney. And this is a venue that they used a bunch, by the way. And also ACL moved on to be ESL Australia. So ESL running, you know, the IEM CS:GO event in Sydney, and all the other things that they've run for other esports is that's all the ACL guys, Nick Van Zetti and friends.
Gotcha.
But all those guys, they took a chance on me to cast. I did it completely for free. I flew myself over to, you know, I bought my own plane tickets, bought my own rooms, and was completely for free. I just did it because I loved it. And also I could afford to because I was in full-time engineer at that point, so I had a lot of money. But I got hired for 2012 for that big offline event, and there were a few internationals there. There was Pain User and HD. So you remember those guys? They were there. And then they also had Tasteless and Artosis.
Dang. Okay.
So the big power duo that everyone had been watching for 2 years in GSL were coming to Australia, and everyone was really high. You know, Tastosis were a huge deal. They still are, of course, but back then a huge deal. The best commentators in the whole world for the biggest esport in the whole world, right? So they came down to Australia. The place was packed with hundreds of people, even more than that, out there at the back of the area that we had to watch on screens because there wasn't enough seating. And I was the host for that event. I was the stage host. And also, they said, you know, you would commentate a couple matches. So I got to commentate with Pain News, and I got to commentate with Artosis. And I cast with Artosis, and he and Tasteless spoke, well, specifically Artosis, I think, spoke to Apollo, and said that this guy is, you know, a great commentator. So if you're looking for anyone for IEM, grab him. And then my first international gig was Apollo saying, you know, Artosis says you're good, let's see what you can do. And he hired me for IEM Shanghai 2013.
Nice.
And since then, I was a very new caster at that point. I really wanted to perform, and I blew my vocal cords out. So the final day, I actually could barely speak at all, but I was still screaming through the pain. And people were like, oh my God, stop. Stop, it's already dead. And when they talked about my voice. But, you know, but I still, you know, tore through my throat. I did a lot of damage to myself, but I just really wanted to perform. And I got a lot of really nice messages online from, you know, people like Cats, and I remember like Liquid Ret and that sort of thing, and I remember like Apollo saying, "Oh, Liquid Ret says you're good. He's hard to impress, man. That's a big you know, pat on the back there." And I'm like, "Oh, this, you know, it felt really good." I'm like, "Oh, wow, really? Like, am I good? I didn't know." So So I got hired again, and I got hired again, and I got offered to move to Cologne for to be full time with ESL and that sort of thing. And I said no because I had a girlfriend at the time, and we were going to get engaged and that sort of thing. So that's basically the story. That it goes on from there. Like the IEMs turned into WCS stops. I remember my first ever BlizzCon was a really big surprise because in 2015 I did two events. I did the IEM Taipei in 2015 with Todd and Apollo and Kalaris, and that was about when Apollo and Kalaris were like the big casting duo out of Europe.
Yeah.
And then 2015 Katowice, I got hired for that. And I'm like, oh, that's a huge event. Katowice is massive for StarCraft 2. I'm like, absolutely, I want to go to that. So I had to get annual leave from work. And I already used a bunch of it for Taipei. So, I went on unpaid leave to Poland. And that was the event where I think the community was like really riding me. Like they were like, oh, wow, he's really good. And after that, I got podcast offers and that sort of thing. I never got them again because I was terrible on the podcast that I got. I think it was on Desiro's, I think. Desiro put me on there because it was like everyone was really hyped about me. And and he expected a really energetic guy, but it turns out when I show up at 4 a.m., I'm like pretty monotonous and pretty quiet. And like 2015 Katowice, I got to do the grand final. The cards fell where they may. It was just the guys were like, wow, you've been really impressive at this event, and the community's been really loving you on Reddit and stuff. So we're going to give you the grand final instead of Kalaris. And I was like, oh my god, like I couldn't believe it, and I felt really terrible about it actually. Like I had imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't, for all you guys out there that don't know what that is, it's just basically, it's what it sounds like. You show up and you're hired for a job that people think you can do, but you don't think you can do it. You're like, oh, I'm not meant to be here. I'm surrounded by professionals. You
feel like you're fooling everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember being at that desk for the grand final, like in the Katowice arena. It's a huge arena. Like it actually feels bigger than it actually is when you see it online. Like it's incredible. I've seen stuff like that for like big international bands, and soccer stadiums and that sort of thing, football stadiums. But I went up into the bleachers. The casting desk was out on the second or third level, but sort of overhanging over the crowd. So you were just surrounded by people. You had security and stuff keeping your area safe and all that stuff. But it was just I was just afraid, man. And I remember like a guy came up to me. He was filming for a documentary, and he was really cool the whole event. So we're talking to him and he took footage and that sort of thing. But at the grand final, he was trying to ask me how I felt, and I was like, "Dude, go away!" I was like yelling at him, like, dude, leave me. I'm like freaking out trying to think of so many things right now. And I felt really bad because I was like, don't go. Like, I can't talk to you, man. Please leave. And then Apollo was like, dude, it's all right. It's fine. And then I was freaking out thinking that I'd do a terrible job. But it's one of those things, and I still have it to this day where, I don't get nervous anymore, but back in 2015, I still felt like I was imposter syndrome pretty hard. And when the game started, though, everything around me went away. As soon as the lights went down and the game started, after the intro was the thing I was the most scared of because he wanted me to be hyped and get the crowd ready. But after that, once the game started and the cast started, it was so easy. So easy. Because I'm one of those commentators that when the game is on, I'm 100% absorbed in the game that I'm doing, that I'm casting. Nothing else exists. Not a care in the world, not any problem you got at home, or any problem you've got in your personal life, or maybe you've got an injury or something like that. That actually just goes away because I'm just so focused. And that's what happened. And then the grand final was easy peasy, and then when it was over, and there was cheers and love from the community. And I feel like since 2015, that was kind of my baptism by fire. And I've been a mainstay ever since. Started doing WCS circuits, and I went to 2016. I went to a few WCS circuits, dream hacks, that sort of thing. It was my first dream hacks in 2016, and then that's it. Kept doing more dream hacks. Kept doing more. I guess Starlighter events now. We got Starlighter stuff.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
I like how you and Tasteless kind of have the same origin story. We were just kind of hanging out, and then someone's like, "We need somebody to cast. Help us, please."
Yeah, I mean. a little bit different in the sense that I kind of drunkenly assaulted a guy on Skype to make me his co-caster, whereas
You don't know that
Tasteless,
Tasteless
I'm assuming.
I mean, you don't know he didn't.
I mean, maybe he wasn't sober. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he was pretty bummed out that he lost, so maybe he had a flask and he swigged. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
So-
Have to ask him.
But yeah, I could ask him. Yeah, if
Yeah.
he probably remembers. But I see him every now and then. But yeah, so that's it, man. That's the story. That's actually probably the longer version of it, because normally I just go, oh, a guy talked to a guy and a guy talked to a guy and the rest is history, which is the TLDR version.
Yeah. No, podcasts are for longer stories. It's good. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Who is your favorite person to cast with in a co-casting situation?
Oh, that's tough.
Haha.
I get that question a lot.
Put you on the spot.
I get that question a lot. I think. I'm actually, I was speaking about Zombie Grub earlier. I think because we're pretty close, and she's a very good yin to the yang of my style. You know what I mean? Like the parts that I lack, she makes up for in droves, and the part that she lacks, I make up for. But we have a little bit of both those things in us, so it's not a complete yin yang. I'm not a complete. I'm not going to sit there and go, "What is that unit?" I actually do understand StarCraft to a relatively good degree. And Zombie Grub, of course, isn't always like, she's not completely monotonous. She actually does get excited and does get hyped up.
Yeah, for sure.
I can get, when she was doing the grand final with Pig, I thought they were brilliant for Montreal with Rainer and Cyril. But we really complement each other, and we're also close, and we have good banter and jokes and that sort of thing. And that's important to me. Is not only to put on a good cast for the community, but also I think the community I think that if you want to do a good job for the community, you need to have a little bit of that X factor. Like you can't just put on a good cast. You also need to have, you need to show them that you're a fun personality, that you guys get along, that you're friends, and we definitely have that. But I also, as I say that, the reason why this question is so tough is because I also have that with, especially, not back in the day, but Rotterdam and I have cast so much together that we're a pretty good combo now. Todd and I have cast so much in the past with IEMs and stuff that we really have a good rapport going on. Like we've been friends for a lot longer than I've been friends with Roddy, and a lot longer than I've been friends with Zombie Grub. But we only really became friends a few years ago. But that as long as I'm friends with that person and we have a good rapport and they're a very good analyst, I find I do quite well. Similar to Artosis, although Artosis and I haven't had as many casts as I have with Rotterdam and Todd and that sort of thing. But I feel like we do a good job when we're together as well. Just someone that's an analyst, someone that that I get along with, someone that we can make jokes with, and someone that's not going to overlap me when I'm getting really excited. But that said, though, we were talking about Tasteless before. I actually thought that Tasteless and I commentating together would be terrible, not because I think he's a bad commentator. Like very far from it. I think he's really brilliant, but just because we're the same kind of commentator.
Yeah.
Like the play-by-play guy, the hype guy. There's very few of those in StarCraft 2 because it is such a deep game, and most of the people that cast it are experts because they're, they're just very, very good players, right? Tasteless and I, Tasteless was a good player back in the day, and I've never been a good player, but I've always been very excited by the game and really into it to a point where I still understand it just as a spectator. I watch so much of it that even though mechanically I'm a flaming garbage can rolling down a hill, but I can still understand compositions and talk about timings and that sort of thing because I know enough about that. But Tasteless and I have that very similar style, so I thought we'd clash a lot, but it actually ended up being really good. I think it was an IM Katowice the first time it happened. I think maybe 2017. I don't remember the year, but the first time we cast together was one of those events, and we were both really excited, because we like each other a lot. But at some level, I was also a little bit afraid. I'm like, are we going to step on each other's toes? Is he going to overlap? Is he going to start doing things where I usually step in? That sort of thing, because that's his job as well.
Yeah.
It ended up being really good. I kind of take the role as the analyst because I know a little bit more about StarCraft 2 than Tasteless does. But we also take turns in talking about the game and the strategy. So we actually did a little bit of everything, a little bit of analysis, and a little bit of play-by-play, and took turns, and it was very natural. Neither of us needed to go, oh, you do this, you do that, and we figure it out beforehand. Like we never, like for all you guys out there in the community that, us commentators, we work there, we work really, really hard to put on a good show. We put on a lot of time and prep into making sure that we're prepared for the players and the storylines, that sort of thing. Well, some more than others, but not naming names. But as far as direction goes, like to say, oh, you do this, you do that, and nutting it down beforehand, like trying to figure out who says what when. We don't do any of that. That's very much on the cuff, off the cuff on the fly. The only thing that's really that you'll see sometimes, you won't see it if you're watching in a big event, but sometimes there'll be like a little bit of a hand signal before the game starts to say who does the intros.
Yeah, that's important.
We're going to be like, oh, do you want to take turns? Like, we just sort of do it because our microphones are usually live. We'll just like wave at each other and make eye contact and be like, hey, like, you want to go? You know, like sort of hold our hand out and, like we're holding up a cup of tea, you know, like just, hey, you know, you want to go? You want an intro? And then they'll just like, you know, Roddy will like shake his hand and go, no, you go, and point at me. So then I'll do both intros sort of thing, you know. But you'll notice that sometimes I do both or we take turns. Depends on the moment, of course. In a grand final, usually they'll, you know, I'm the player intro guy, so so they usually let me do it. But if it's not the grand final, usually we take turns because I think it's yeah. I think a cast should be, you know, not weighted in one particular caster's way or other, which is why the Tasteless cast was such a surprisingly great thing. Was just we were very 50-50 and it was very good. Like we shared very natural and very organically, and it just sort of happened when it could have been really bad. So back to the original question, I think that it's too hard to answer because there are too many great commentators. So that's my cop out.
That's entirely fair. I'm okay with that. But yeah, just to the larger point you made there, I do think it's really important, and it's good for you, especially to be able to cast very well with lots of different casters. So that
oh, thank you. Yeah,
it's a really good skill to have. I feel like. So I don't know. So I just feel like the organizers just like people that can get along with lots of other casters, so they don't have to be like, okay, so this person can't cast with this person can't cast with this person.
That's
left,
something
right?
we talk about a lot at events, actually, man. Like seriously, that's something that we talk about a lot at events. Is that we're blessed in StarCraft 2 because everyone that still remains as a commentator. Like I don't know about yesteryear. You know, I've heard stories of you know, people not getting along back in the day. But for at least the past 3 or 4 years, maybe even more, everyone's friends. Like we've had arguments and we've had disagreements, but we're all pretty close.
Yeah.
So casting together is quite easy because we're all mates, you know. Yeah, like even like some of the new kids on the block, like you know, Fear Dragon and DeMuslim and that sort of thing. DeMuslim has already had a pretty good relationship with a lot of the guys. Less so me. Like I've never been a high level player, and I haven't been at it like Home Story Cups and that sort of thing. A lot of the European events that DeMuslim was at, and some of the American events was, you know, the American events were sort of before my time. I didn't go to an America for a StarCraft event until BlizzCon 2015, so I didn't really have much of a relationship with him. But it happened like it was so easy because we're so similar. We're just like guys that joke a lot, like to have a drink, you know. And we're just very, very similar, except that, you know, I have a lot of hair and he has none. But we just, but we get along so well, and that makes the cast so easy because we're all friends. Like every single one of us, we're all friends. So there's no drama, none at all.
Yeah, it's pretty lucky, honestly. I don't know of a lot of organizations that have that, any kind of a, you know, employee relationship kind of a thing.
Not gonna name names and unload dirty laundry here, but of course, you know, it's in CS:GO. It was in Heroes back in the day. It was in League of Legends at one point. Like there's just people with you know, some egos clash or styles clash, or someone says something to someone else and they're upset about it, and then it shows up at the event. You know, that kind of thing. And then Blizzard has to deal with the whole like, oh, he doesn't want to cast with this guy. They don't get along, so we need to only hire him when he's not in an event. Like that whole mess. But it's not something that we have to worry about in StarCraft 2. We can interchange as much as Blizzard wants. It's really quite easy.
Fantastic situation. Yeah, no kidding. Although I don't know, I think some people would like if there was some drama they could follow. They'd be like, Maynarde is mad at Zombie Grub today. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah, Fear Dragon hates Zombie Grub. I could tell by looking into his eyes.
Yeah,
I could
but
see
if it was
the
real,
eyes are the windows to the soul. And since 1080p has been shown on Twitch, I can now finally look into Fear Dragon's mind and see how much he hates Zombie Grub and how much Zombie Grub hates Fear Dragon, and it's all real, and the Earth's flat and a bum as a lizard person.
But if it was really real, they'd be so happy. They'd be very pleased.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, they'd be. I mean,
they're disappointed.
There are people out there that love their drama. Like, for instance, you know, one thing that DeMuslim and I don't have in common is that I actually have no time for drama and I don't give a shit about it at all. But the Muslim loves his reality TV drama bullshit. He loves it. Whenever there's a juicy bit of drama, he's like, "Oh yeah!" He's like, gets excited about it. He's like, "StarCraft 2's alive." Yeah.
That's what I need.
We're different in that regard. I'm just like, I like good times and chill times. I'm like Danny Glover from Lethal Weapon, man. I'm too old for this shit. I just want to have a chill time. I want to get along. Maybe I'm boring. I don't know.
Well, don't partner you with Mel Gibson then, is what you're saying.
No. I like Jewish people a lot more than Mel Gibson does.
I'm not sure you'd get along.
So we wouldn't have a lot in common, I don't think. He's originally from Australia, and I think that's about it.
Right. Which,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That just reminds me of the quote, "Nothing screams Scottish freedom like an anti-Semite Australian on horseback."
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
That's right. Braveheart, baby.
Yep.
Good movie.
Yep.
Good movie. But when you look at it in that regard, it's a little bit funny, isn't it?
Hollywood plays fast and loose with that stuff all the time.
Well, I mean, they have like Liam Neeson as a cowboy, which is hilarious to me as well.
Yeah.
The Irish cowboy.
Really gangly Irish guy trying to sound American, and he does not sound American. I've noticed that, like, when I'm a fan of some of those like Liam Neeson action movies, like Taken and stuff, and he's basically been typecast into angry ex-cop dad.
Yep.
Every movie he's an angry ex-cop dad or a cop dad.
Because of Taken, yeah.
Because of Taken, yeah. And at least in those movies, the writers have the fucking foresight to be like, okay, he can't put on an accent to save his life, so he's originally Irish. Let's make his last name Mick something.
Just trust us on this; it'll work.
Yeah. He is not a cowboy. He can't put on the Texas accent. Like, let him be Irish. It's fine.
Well, at least they explain it. Like, sometimes in shows, somebody will come in and they're supposed to be like Burn Notice. Have you ever watched Burn Notice back in like 2005?
No.
Yeah, there's a character who is Irish. She's like IRA, and she's in Miami. And then about episode 3, it just goes away. She just totally abandons the accent, and it never comes back again.
Oh, dude,
it's hilarious.
It still happens, and a lot of people haven't realized this. But the Marvel movies, some of the biggest movies, or the biggest movies, they're basically our generation's Star Wars.
Yep.
These Marvel movies. There's a character, Red Witch. You know where I'm
Scarlet
going with
Witch,
this?
yeah.
Scarlet Witch, yeah, sorry. Scarlet Witch.
Yep.
Started off with a pretty thick European accent.
Sure did.
And then each movie slowly starts to go away, and all of a sudden she's just an American chick.
There's a
She's
little...
just a white girl from Texas all of a sudden.
No, it's not Texas. There's a little bit of Europe going on in Endgame. Tiny bit.
I mean,
To
maybe
be
it comes
fair-
back a little, but I tell you what, what was the one that Infinity War, or maybe I think Civil War, maybe like American Captain America.
Civil War.
I only said American Dad 3. Captain America 3. Captain America 3. I'm pretty sure it was like she just fucking was like, fuck it. It's like just came in and dropped the accent completely and just went straight into just American girl. Like, that was it.
They might have given her a note then, because by the time Endgame rolls around, it's back a little bit. So she's trying a tiny bit.
I've forgotten. I watched Endgame in the cinema, and I was a little bit. I was distraught. So I don't remember. I don't remember I don't remember Scarlet Witch's accent, to be honest. I don't remember her speaking much.
She didn't have much to do, in fairness.
No, she gets like 2 lines in the entire movie.
She like gets a little fight
Yeah,
with
I mean,
Thanos, and then she has a heart-to-heart with Clint about their missing significant others.
She was part of that extremely cringe montage of all the ladies of Marvel Universe joining up together and then fighting.
She certainly was. That was her.
Whew. I mean, dude, there are ways to show the strength of a woman in movies, and that was not it.
Like, if we can feel you trying,
dude,
don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. If we can tell that you're trying, don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, just let it happen now. Like, Black Panther, perfect.
Yeah.
Those women were so powerful and so wonderful, and then Infinity War, it's like, all right, do you have a vagina? All right, get in here. Do you have a vagina? All right, get in here. Get in this shot. All right, you have a vagina, right? I can see that from here. Okay, cool. I see breasts. You're a lady, right? Get in this shot. Like, come on, man. And then a bunch of them just like instantly get wiped as well, like Wasp. It's just like, I actually sort of like that was the only part of the movie, or not the only part. There's a couple parts of the movie that I thought were pretty ridiculous, but that was the part of the movie where I like audibly went, ugh. You're like, yeah, just you nailed it, man. Just like don't let us feel you trying. Make it natural. Otherwise, the community is going to do what I did, where they're like, dude, that was cringe.
It just takes you right out of the movie. It's bad.
Takes you right out. Yeah, it takes you right out. It's not natural. Feels
Nope.
unnatural.
Super bad.
As we talk about a hero movie, like a superhero movie, the purple grimace, McDonald's alien.
Hey man, your fantasy setting could be entirely believable. Just make some rules, stick to
Yeah,
them,
man.
call
I
it
was
good.
I was on that Ant-Man up Thanos' pipe train. I thought that's how he was gonna die, man. I'm like, how else do you kill this guy? From within. Am I right, guys? Night swim strats.
Disappointed fans everywhere when that did not happen, though.
So yeah. And then when they didn't have Danny DeVito as Pikachu, it was a couple of disappointing moments in Hollywood.
A disappointing year for movies, honestly. Let's be honest about this.
Yes and no. All jokes aside, I enjoyed Endgame a lot. But,
Me too.
And Infinity War was a lot. I find them hard not to enjoy, but there is definitely some moments where you're just like, lol. Yeah.
Agreed. They're not perfect films, but they're a lot of fun. So
There's no such thing as any. I don't think anything's perfect. So
that'd be a fun discussion.
I'm one of those people. Like people are like 10 out of 10, and I'm like, 10 out of 10 means perfect. You know what 10 out of 10 means? You can't say that. It's like when people say literally, but it's not literally. Like.
There are a couple of films
my buddy No Regret. It's like 100%. Like no, literally 100%. Nothing in StarCraft's literally 100%. Nothing. It triggers me. Whenever he says that, I'm like, stop saying that. It's not true. He owes us a shoe still, by the way, to give you an idea of
He
how
does owe us a
how
shoe.
100% means. At the time of this recording, he still owes us a shoe.
I'm aware of the shoe.
24th of June.
It's been a while.
But it has been a while. It'll happen eventually. We're told, but I mean, do we trust layers? I don't know.
I don't know. At this point, I don't know.
So you were saying there's some movies that you think are perfect?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I don't think I have time to get into it now. Perhaps in a future conversation.
No, I have to go have breakfast in a minute.
But there is some
I'm
good
hungry.
stuff. I don't know. I think No Country for Old Men gets really close.
Oh, dude. I mean, I would say that there are a bunch of 9s out there out of 10s.
All right.
There are a bunch of 95s out of 100s even.
But you don't
But
believe
there
10
are no
exists?
10s out of 10s. 10 doesn't exist.
Is that because it
Not in
literally
cinema. Yeah.
cannot exist, or because there's nothing that's earned it?
I don't think it can exist.
Okay.
Perfection. I mean, perfection is.
It's a thing.
It's perfection. Yeah, it's not attainable.
All right.
I mean, maybe
always
in some
room
stuff
for
like I can perfectly add 1 and 1 together. That I can do.
True facts.
Yes. So that is that
Yeah.
perfection exists in some. But when we're talking about something that has so many moving pieces, like say a game of StarCraft or making a movie, it can't exist. It can't. No
Can't
way.
exist.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
That's just like my opinion, man.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
All right. Well, cool. We better let you go get some breakfast then.
Oh, yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, but thanks for hanging out. Anything?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, sorry it took me so long to get back to Simicron and to get on this thing. That's my bad. That's just me getting. If it makes you feel better, I also do that to my mother. She'll message me and she'll be like, "Hey, want to catch up this Friday?" And I'll be like, "Oh, I got a text from Mum, but I'm streaming, so I'll respond later." And then
You
gone.
never do.
Like I just
6 months go by.
yeah.
That actually
Yeah,
does help
right.
me feel better. So thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome. I wasn't dogging you on purpose.
Is there anything
But,
you want to plug before you go?
Just hi, hello, I'm Maynarde. If you like my stuff, I'm at Maynarde SC2 on Twitter, and I also stream most days, and we'll be starting streaming soon at twitch.tv/Maynarde.
Cool. We'll put a link in the show notes for sure.
Cool.
Thank you, man.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate you taking the time. And thanks for listening as well, everybody who has been listening. Again, check out the show notes for links to Maynard's stuff. Check out the Patreon and the merch. And until next time, as always, thank you for giving us your time, and you take care of yourself.